coverage. Simply superior.
Well, hello, good evening to you. Welcome. This is Ghana Tonight, the Constitution Day edition of Ghana Tonight. We're coming to you live on News Up here at Desawe Kanda, also live on TV, down on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on freenews.com. I am Alfred Ocansey. Tonight, the senior national team, the Black Stars, have a goalless draw with the Namibian counterpart in the friendly match ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations. We're live in the Babayara Sports Stadium shortly in Kumasi for a post-match reaction and more. Stay with us on Ghana Tonight. Also, as the country marks Constitutional Day today, we're here from the various views shared about the state of the 1992 Constitution and whether it should be maintained, amended or changed. These are the three areas of our discussion tonight. We also have the former Electoral Commission Chair, Dr. Kojo Afrajan, who has been speaking at a public lecture. Stay with us here on Ghana Tonight. We have details for you on that. We also have for you updates on the state of the government of Ghana's meeting with the external creditors regarding the second tranche of the International Monetary Fund deal. That's a $600 million, which has delayed. We have updates on that crucial meeting, which we understand has been pushed to tomorrow. We'll give you updates on this, plus exactly what the state of affairs is when it comes to investigations into the killing of some 7 people during the 2020 elections. What's causing the delay in ensuring that persons who perpetrated this act are brought to book? We'll have a conversation on this tonight. As always, let's settle for some of the issues that have been making the rounds, and your thoughts and views, comments and opinions are welcome. The hashtag we're using is Ghana Tonight on Facebook and X. Let's get talking. Let's settle for Ghana Briefs.
The Opposition National Democratic Congress (NDC) has cautioned President Akufo-Addo against engaging in acts that would undermine the December 7, 2024 general elections. This follows a recent pledge by the president to do everything to ensure he hands over power to a new patriotic party government.
Those who vote decide nothing, but those who count the votes decide everything. That is why we are assuring Ghanaians that we will not relent until every vote is cast, every vote is counted, and every vote is made to count by the Jim Mensah-led Electoral Commission.
The National Commission for Civic Education (NCCE) is entreating the public not to sow their votes at an event to mark this year's Constitution Day. The NCCE warned the act, if not checked, could undermine the country's democracy.
We are witnesses to the supply of money to voters and the demand for money from voters in the various elections that happened last year. This represents an existential threat to our nation and our well-being as individual Ghanaians.
After weeks of speculations, debates and rumors by many Ghanaians, the identity behind the new force billboard has been revealed. Addressing the media after calling off of the new Africa Foundation Convention, Nana Kwame Bediako, popularly known as Cheddar, told Ghanaians that he is the man in the mask.
I am not going to leave here without God even being proud of me. And when I'm not here also, I want you to remember that I came. And I want my absence to be felt. And for that reason, I know you're looking for the man. But the man in the mask is sitting in front of you. I am nothing to be scared of. I came to you as your salvation.
The Ghana Journalists Association, GJA, has given the new Patriotic Party a 4-day ultimatum to immediately investigate and sanction the culprit in an alleged attack on a journalist in the Central Region. The journalist, David Nanakwame, who works with the Cape Coast FM, was mistaken for that of a panelist who is said to have verbally abused Fisheries Minister Mavis Hawakumsen.
While condemning the attack on David unreservedly, the Ghana Police Service should investigate and identify the purported police officer who invited David before he was assaulted and bring him to face sanctions for unprofessional conduct. We hereby serve notice that if by close of Friday, January 12, 2024, these demands have not been met, we shall advise ourselves accordingly.
Recent polls from Global Info Analytics Limited indicate that the new Patriotic Party's NPP, Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia, will struggle to turn around voters who have indicated in significant numbers that they will vote for the National Democratic Congress's John Mahama. But speaking on hot issues with Kemini Amano, a former presidential hopeful of the NPP, Kwabena Japong, disagrees with the findings.
I have never been a believer in service. It's become an industry now, so everybody now has become a polling consultant.
It doesn't tell you that the vice president might need a lot more work in the northern
we already
region?
know that. We don't need the polls to tell us that.
Right.
I've been around this country enough to feel the pulse of the country, to know how they feel about the government and our candidate. So it's hard work, but with everybody on side, all shoulders to the wheel, pushing in one direction, the MPP has more numbers than the NDC.
Well, there's more news on 3news.com. Make some time and visit 3news.com. This is GhanaTonight. News just coming through minutes ago from Kumasi in the Ashanti regions that there's a fire outbreak at Ahonjo, Texas. Ahonjo, Texas, that's a suburb in Kumasi. Eyewitnesses say some smoke started from a boutique and subsequently spread to other shops in that particular area, and you see the fire tender arriving at that fire scene some minutes ago. So this is news just coming through that a fire outbreak has just occurred at the Ahonjo, Texas, a suburb in Kumasi in the Ashanti region. The smoke started from a boutique shop, but the owner was said not to be around at the time it started, and the fire spread to nearby shops in this market close to the Ahonjo, Texas area. So this is just videos coming through from that fire scene minutes ago from an eyewitness who is watching right now on GhanaTonight, sending us these videos of this fire outbreak. And thankfully, we understand that the fire service responded swiftly to this fire call and are currently attending to that fire as we speak. So we'll give you updates on this situation as we go on here on GhanaTonight. That's the fire outbreak that's just been reported at Ahonjo, Texas. We'll keep an eye on this one and be updating you as we go on. The fire just started minutes ago. But let's stay in the Ashanti region tonight. And coming up next, the senior national team, the Black Stars, have drawn into a goalless draw with the Namibian counterpart in friendly match ahead of the Africa Cup of Nations. We're going live to the Bavaria Sports Stadium in Kumasi in the Ashanti region for some post-match reactions. And as we go on, we're going to be showing you some pictures of this goalless draw. But my colleague Kelvin Wilson sat at the stadium, watched the entire game. He's joining us on Zoom. Kelvin, tell us what's been the reaction after this goalless draw by the Black Stars?
Well, Alfred, I think it still affirms up the skepticism among the fans here at the Bavaria Sports Stadium, judging from how the team played. Many are still not enthused with the setup, the way Chris Hughton has set up his team, especially in the first half of games. The team was just, non-existent for me. The channels that they need to create to get goal-scoring opportunities, they were not pressing high to force opponents to make mistakes. Namibia were rather forcing the team to play into their own half and make lots of mistakes. You know, the transitions to allow the midfield play into the attack to serve our attackers and wingers in an expansive play, which we know Chris Hughton and someone like Didi Dramani to be fans of, were non-existent. So the team was just limited until the second half when was introduced. Ashmir Majid came on to help with the team to create more goal-scoring opportunities. But unfortunate for us, the crossbar was hit, the goalpost was hit, goalkeeper had to make some of the routine saves. But it still raises lots of questions about this team and the capability of going to the Nations Cup to perform well. Alfred.
I see. And the match, we understand, ended just about some 10 minutes ago, correct? Yes, unfortunately, there's a breaking in the connection with Kelvin Olson, so we'll rectify that shortly. But we're going to show you some pictures of the match, that goalless draw. Take a look at this. And Kelvin, I was asking, I mean, we understand that the match ended some 10 minutes ago. Has there been any specific responses as yet from Chris Hughton? Has he granted any interviews, his view on the performance of the Black Stars? Unfortunate. We'll rectify that connection shortly with Kelvin Olson. But let me just show you pictures of the match that ended about 10 minutes ago from what we understand at the Bavaria Sports Stadium. There you have Inaki Williams charging on front together with Jordan Ayew in the pictures there. And so just to give you an idea of how things played out, even though this was an open gate, that is a free gate for the supporters, the place was not filled to capacity as expected. But as we have it, we'll have to deal with the goalless draw as we speak. And Kelvin, now tell me, you've been talking to some of the supporters as well, the Ghanaians who thronged this Bavaria Sports Stadium. What have they been telling you?
Well, I think a lot think that this is just a friendly game, and then we should give the team that opportunity to play that first game against Cape Verde on Sunday, and then we'll see if Chris Hughton will come up with a different performance. And you look at the team, and some of the integral members did not even start the game. For two of them, Antoine Semenyo, who is supposed to be our lead marksman, and Abdul Saleh Samed were not in that midfield. They did not play today. There's also the absence of Kudus Mohammed. So they think that the team is still building their chemistry, and they did not have the full spine of the team, because Salisu even came from the bench. Someone like Ashmir Majid came to, inject energy into the play from the bench. For Osman Bukhari, who also came from the bench. So they still think that there is a lot that the team has to do, and then they'll give Chris Hughton and the technical team that opportunity to fix the flaws that has been recognized in the team. But it's still not, optimistic that the chances of the Black Stars would inspire any Ghanaian present here at the Bavaria Sports Stadium that we are going to the AFCON to at least give others a run for their money.
I see. Let me end up with this. Have you heard anything of Kudus Mohammed? And we understand he is nursing an injury. When is he going to join the team for the AFCON?
Well, Kudus is already in Ghana, and he's in Accra with some medics. He's trusted by the Black Stars medical team and West Ham medical team. There's been that communication. He's not going to join the team in Kumasi because the team would have a visit to the Mensah Palace hopefully tomorrow, and then they will jet off to Cote d'Ivoire on Wednesday. So they are expected to meet Kudus Mohammed in Accra on Wednesday and then move together with him to Cote d'Ivoire on that same day for him to be part of the team. So Kudus is in Ghana, but he's still being kept safe and fit for that first game against Cape Verde.
Kelvin, appreciate your time. Thank you very much for this update. And Kelvin Oswansa is my colleague in the Bavaria Sports Stadium. Sat through, watched the entire game. It's a goalless draw between Ghana and Namibia. That's what we have to deal with. But coming up next, as the country marks the Constitutional Day today, we hear the various views shared about the state of the 1992 Constitution and whether it should be maintained, amended, or changed. These are the three prominent areas of the conversation around the 1992 Constitution. Many have indicated that it should be changed. Others feel like it should be, some portions of it should be amended. Others also believe it should be maintained as it is. We also hear from the Electoral Commission former chair, Dr. Kojo Afere-Gyan, who has been speaking at a public lecture on this particular issue earlier today and the specific position that I've been taking on this particular issue. But let's first of all take a quick recall to that lecture that took place at the UPSC auditorium, organized by the UPSC Law Faculty and the One Ghana movement, specifically about the Constitution, and then today, the relevance of today and matters arising. Now, take a look at Dr. Kojo Afari-Gyan's position on the Constitution and the Electoral Commission. Take a look.
The political parties can take a stand which constitutes an obstacle to the realization of the electoral rights of the people. When that happens, it is the duty of the Electoral Commission to uphold and protect the rights and interests of the people. I'd like to give a very simple example. The political parties once wanted the Electoral Commission to make it mandatory for people to produce their voter ID cards on election day before they are allowed to vote. The Electoral Commission said no to this no card, no vote campaign, explaining that it is the Constitution and not the card that creates the right to vote. The card makes it easy to identify you as a registered voter. So, on election day, if your name is on the register, which is the legal requirement, but you don't have the card with you, then the onus lies on you to identify yourself to the satisfaction of the persons conducting the election. Fortunately, the political parties eventually agreed with the Commission's position. In contrast, the current Electoral Commission's drive to make the Ghana card the only document for voter registration, when that card is not easily accessible to all Ghanaians, and its refusal to consider the request by the political parties to do the 2023 limited voter registration at the electoral area level, closer to the people than at the district level, would seem to indicate that the political parties are now the ones defending the interests of the voter.
So that's the former chair of the Electoral Commission, Dr. In fact, the longest chair of the Electoral Commission, longest serving chair of the Electoral Commission, Dr. Kojo Afari-Gyan, in that lecture earlier today, talking about the Electoral Commission failing to protect the rights or the votes of the people. Now, you recall in November 2023, the Electoral Commission had announced, amongst other things, the intention to do away with the use of indelible ink in election 2024. Now, just go back memory lane, take a look at the AC chair, General Dr. Mensah, in November 2023. Take a look.
The issue of indelible ink. The question is, when we were not doing biometric, we were basically using your face, your card, and to look at you. We look at your face and we say, this picture looks like you. The biometric technology makes it difficult for a person who has been verified and cast their vote to come a second time. So there is no need for indelible ink, because once you have been verified, it goes into the system and you cannot come back a second time. So you can try it if you wish at this election. Of course, it will be an electoral offense. It will be deemed as an electoral offense. But because of biometric technology, your facial features are recognized or your fingerprints is recognized and verified, you cannot go a second time. And you can try it, as I said, if you wish. And therefore, there's no need for indelible ink, which had been in place since 2012, since the beginning of 2012, when we were not using biometric. This is not something that you want to continue to do for the sake of it. You have biometric technology, and therefore you've departed from the system where you look at the picture and you can go anywhere else. And for now, you cannot have more than one card. Before, you could have multiple cards because the technology was not biometric. But now, anybody who attempts to do multiple registrations is flagged out. In the same way, if you are verified, the system recognizes that you have been verified, and you cannot go more than once. You'll be picked up.
So when the Electoral Commission put out this idea of doing away with the indelible ink, there was conversation that ensued. In Parliament, both the minority and majority raised concerns about this and the impact it would have if the Electoral Commission decides to go ahead with doing away with the indelible ink. You, the members of the public, also did express your concerns. Today, the NDC has also rejected proposals from the Electoral Commission to do a number of things. The closure of polls at 3 p.m. and to also stop the use of the indelible ink. According to the party, these proposals, if accepted, will open the floodgates for activities to compromise the integrity of election 2024. Take a look.
The NDC is diametrically opposed to the Electoral Commission's decision not to use indelible ink during the election 2024. The discontinuation of the use of indelible ink in Ghana's elections at this stage will open the floodgate for nefarious activities that will compromise the integrity of our elections. Have we, as Ghanaians, said that we will not pay for the indelible ink? The EC must not make life easy for criminals to exploit our electoral process. There are several outstanding issues to be addressed in this election year. The issues include the Electoral Commission's proposed closure of polls at 3 p.m., which the NDC, for the avoidance of doubt, is opposed to. They are bringing the closure of votes to 3 p.m., and yet they are not working on the delivery of electoral materials promptly for elections to start at 7.
Well, so that's the chair of the NDC, Johnson Esedo Nketaria. Professor Stephen Kweku-Asare, popularly known as Professor Kweku-Asare, is a Democracy and Development Fellow at the Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD. And is joining us on Zoom for a quick conversation on this. Prof, thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Beyond the NDC and also talking about this, the majority in Parliament have also raised concerns about, for instance, first of all, the decision or the proposal by the Electoral Commission to do away with the use of indelible ink in 2024 elections. CSOs in the governance space have also spoken about the possible impact of this decision if the EC is allowed to go ahead with that idea of doing away with the indelible ink. Do you share in those same concerns as well?
Yes, I do, because I'm one of these people who don't believe that big change or big changes should be implemented all of a sudden. If you believe you have a technology that makes the use of indelible ink obsolete, fine. Do it on a pilot basis. Take a few polling stations and test to see whether indeed it works, so that people have confidence in what it is that you are going to try to implement. But you can't just announce that for the first time, I'm no longer going to use indelible ink. People will raise questions because the technology does not always work. And people are right to have questions about algorithms because they think that's why the onus is on the Electoral Commission to bring the people along through the use of pilot testing. For instance, if this district elections had not failed so miserably, they could have tried this and then report to the people the results of their pilot. And then that will build people's confidence so that going into 2024, you can extend the number of centers that do that. and then by 2028, everyone is comfortable, or at least most people are comfortable, then you can introduce it full scale in 2028. But we are too quick to announce big changes and contemporaneously try to implement them. That will always give you problems and headaches.
Well, talk about the big changes. Apart from this indelible ink, the EC is mulling the idea of not using, which you have also raised concerns about. There's another bit about the closure of polls, as in when elections will end on election day. It used to be 5 p.m. The Electoral Commission is mulling the idea of closing polls at 3 p.m., 2 hours earlier. Now, considering all the issues that we have on election day, is this one that you would have the Parliament, for instance, approve of this if it appears before them?
It cannot work at all because, there are a lot of people who actually have to do things and cannot get off those things until after 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock. We cannot shut the window down on them or compel them to stop whatever it is that they are doing to come and rush to vote before 3 o'clock merely because the EC says so. The window that we have was not established randomly. It's been established long ago based on some facts, based on some data. You just don't come in as an EC and say, well, under my regime, I'm going to shut it by 2 hours, and if people don't like it, they should do whatever they want. That is not the way to run a commission in any serious country. And mind you, the EC also says it's reducing the number of people who are assigned to a polling station. Well, that's very good. That means even if we vote late, once the polls are closed, you can count the ballots rather quickly because there are few ballots being cast. So that by itself speaks against the shrinking of the voting window because you are introducing more polling stations. If you are introducing more polling stations, then the idea that it takes too long to count the votes goes away because fewer people are voting at each polling station. That means you should keep the window the same way or even extend the window to allow latecomers to have the opportunity to vote. So seriously, I think they should do some more studies, they should do some more engagement, they should do some more consultation. And if anything at all, they should always err on having a longer window rather than a shorter window.
Appreciate your time. I thank you. Longer window rather than a shorter window. Professor Stephen Kwekwasare, thank you so much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. He's a fellow Democracy and Development, Ghana Center for Democratic Development, CDD. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. There's a bit more conversation on the path of the Constitution and matters arising. Coming up next, we get into that conversation about whether the Constitution should be maintained, amended, or changed entirely. And the powers of the executive in this constitution is what has been a major subject of conversation, and the number of members of parliament that have to be appointed as ministers and so on and so forth. That's coming up next. As the country marks Constitution Day today, we hear the various views shared about the state of the 1992 constitution and whether it should be maintained, amended or changed. We also have a number of people who share their views at this public lecture earlier today, and still staying with Dr. Kojo Afari-Gyan because he had a bit to share about the powers of the executive in this constitution. Take a look.
With about half of ministers plus some of the deputy ministers drawn from parliament, the legislature cannot effectively check the executive. Cabinet decisions are binding on ministers and deputy ministers, and they must be defended by them, including in parliament. I think that a system where ministers and their deputies are drawn from outside parliament will be better suited to holding the executive in check. We would all agree that the Council of State has an imposing name, but the way it has so far gone about its work has made it look like an honorific institution without power. Yet, apart from the President, the Council has power to advise every public institution in Ghana. Based on my own experience at the Electoral Commission, I can say that the Council takes briefings from public institutions and gives them advice in turn. I think it will help the public to gauge the Council's impact if periodically it issues a report indicating what advice it has given to which institution.
That's Dr. Kojo John there. But one person who has been on this campaign of having the entire 1992 Constitution changed instead of portions amended or maintained is Oliver Bakavomao. He is a private legal practitioner and an activist as well as joining us on Zoom. Oliver, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. First of all, let's start off with this campaign that you've been on to have the Constitution changed, the 1992 Constitution changed entirely. What's the status of this campaign that you've been on? Unfortunately, we lost Oliver Bakavomao there. We'll try to rectify that connection to him and then also get a clearer connection and get this quick thoughts from him. Okay, so Oliver, if you can hear me, good evening. Thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Now, contrary to the position that you have that this Constitution, the 1992 Constitution, should be set aside entirely, the argument about portions of it being amended is rather gaining grounds and being favorable for others, at least in the interim, instead of that long-term approach of setting it entirely aside when we have problems to deal with now.
Our view as to the need for us to have a much more holistic process when we are thinking about constitutional reform and not just sporadic amendments here and there, it's not a view which will reach haphazardly or just because the majority or a number of people don't, particularly people within the political class, don't share that opinion. Doesn't mean that that's a view that we must jettison. You know what I'm saying? And so because it's a position that we have reached out of conviction, we stand by those. But this is my challenge to persons who continue to say, well, let's not consider constitutional reform in a holistic sense. Let's do some amendments here and there. Kind of talk. What have we done, even for those who believe in that, to achieve that? And for persons within the civil society who don't share our point of view, what have you done to be able to ensure that yours, which you seem to be the less easy option, even that has not moved forward. So for me, I don't think that we should get bogged down in who believes in a holistic reform and who believe in piecemeal amendments. Those who believe in piecemeal amendments, what has changed now? So the truth is that we have to recognize that what is before us is, in fact, an unwillingness of the political class to move forward these ideas, rather than be taking our more holistic and that person doesn't believe in, or if a group of people don't believe in a holistic reform, constitutional reform, for which reason folks like us who have reached those positions out of conviction should resile from that position. No, my challenge is that those who think that a piecemeal approach is the way to go, it's been 30 years. What have we done in that regard?
Well, it's been 30 years, 31 years now. What have we done? But then again, this call that you make, and I've listened to a number of views and opinions on this matter, people who even took part in the process of drafting and crafting this constitution during the People's Assembly make the point that this is a living document. And so it's going to go through the changes and evolution to also respond to the evolution of time, and then also to society and society's demands and expectations of our governance and our democracy. So how about that position that they've taken, that would you join that call that instead of now asking that the constitution be set aside right now for a new one to be put in place, you rather would have portions of it amended to address the immediate challenges that we're faced with?
I mean, I was myself a member of the Constitution Review Commission. The positions that were reached in the Constitution Review Commission were positions that I shared with and contributed to. But mind you, there's nothing piecemeal about the Constitution Review framework. There are recommendations that are affecting over 200 provisions of the Constitution under that report. And this is why, for me, I want to highlight the fact that what we are confronted with is not a question of whether or not one is more holistic and one is less, but it's an unwillingness of the political class to want to do anything at all. I mean, it has been 10 odd years at the very least. I think the report was given in 2011. We're in 2023, so 12 years thereabout, that the political class, that they initiated for themselves this Constitution Review project, that they have at hand Constitution reform ideas. Most of those ideas are not new because they were in fact canvassed by everybody in the political space, including a sitting president at some point. And they haven't done anything in regard to it. It's a clear indication of they don't care to do anything. And because Ghanaians themselves are disinterested in how they hold political office holders accountable by their own words and choices, we have a problem where we are not moving forward with it. So far, going to the next elections, one of the candidates at least, I know John Mahama has spoken in favor of moving ahead with certain amendments of the Constitution. Well, he had the opportunity the first time, he flunked at it, and now he's saying the same thing again. The bigger thing is whether or not there's a mass consensus of people who say that suppose John Mahama is re-elected president of this country and he doesn't move ahead with those constitutional reform ideas, what would we do? Is it grounds for impeachment? Those are the questions that I'm interested in. What are the mechanisms for accountability? If we are not able to fashion those out, then every project is just a promise in vain and nothing happens. As far as we are concerned, whatever the political class does, our judgment of the constitutional document is not whether or not an amendment has been made out of it. Our judgment is whether or not we have been able to achieve a document that ensures equity and developmental equity, that ensures justice and freedom for our people. If at any point in time amendments are introduced that do not measure up to that standard, our advocacy for reform continues. That is our vision for what we believe in is supposed to cure and heal this republic. So we will stop it. And we are not saying that it has to be our way or the highway. We will continue to mobilize people around the justice of our cause. And if the political class does for themselves amendments such as enhancing for themselves, ex gratia and other things, they are more likely to do those things. But it is not an invitation for us to back down in what we believe is just for this republic.
Right. Oliver, appreciate your time. Thank you very much. And this is a conversation that would continue until at least we get the right position on what has to be done to be able to improve on the systems of governance we have within this constitution that has been practiced for 31 years. Thank you. Oliver Bakavomawo is private legal practitioner, is an activist, joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Coming up next, we have for you updates on the state of the government of Ghana's meeting with its external creditors regarding the second tranche of the IMF deal, which has delayed. That's where we're heading to right now. And some quick updates that we're getting coming through from our man, Abdul Sani Rahman, who is monitoring the development with respect to this particular meeting with the external creditors and the developments specifically about what has to be done next to ensure that the next tranche of the $600 million from the IMF deal comes through. Abdul Sani Rahman is my colleague, is connecting with us from Washington, D.C. in the United States and monitoring developments. Is connecting with us. Sani, thank you for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. I know it's almost late afternoon where you are, but first of all, let's get an update on what you've gathered so far with respect to the representatives of Ghana's engagement with the external creditors representatives as well, and the meeting that's supposed to take place in Paris.
Not to the main item, when the meeting focused on the parameters of discussion for tomorrow, which is to look at the cutoff date, and that essentially is looking at what sort of debt should be included in the negotiation. We know that in March 2020, the Debt Sustainability Initiative was launched, essentially to give some relief to developing nations who have been impacted hugely by the COVID-19 pandemic, and for that matter, they were not able to service their debts. So the bone of contention has been largely around whether Ghana's debts prior to the launch of the DSI should be included, or debts after the DSI till December 31, 2022 should be included. China is of the view that debts after the launch of the DSI should be excluded from the debt restructuring, while members of the Paris Club are of the view that debt after the launch of the DSI, which was May 2020, should also be included in the restructuring. So that has been the bone of contention. They have still not agreed. We expected that to happen today, but for whatever the reason, they decided to look at the parameters of the conversation and have the meeting on the subject tomorrow.
So that crucial agreement regarding a cutoff date, determining the point after which new loans from the bilateral creditors will not undergo restructuring, is going to be taken tomorrow in France, Paris specifically.
Yes, and we understand already representatives of the bilateral nations, the group of creditor nations, are already in Paris. They had the meeting, as I indicated, more or less a build-up to the main meeting, which will happen tomorrow. So yes, it's going to happen tomorrow.
Any indication that your engagement with the Ghanaian reps there? Unfortunately, we lost Abdul Sani Rahman. Apologies for that. But Sani is my colleague in Washington, D.C. This is Ghana Tonight. And we'll be monitoring that as well. The meeting with official creditor committee co-chaired by the government of China and France. We understand that crucial meeting tomorrow to determine the cutoff date, determining the point after which new loans from bilateral creditors will not undergo restructuring. All things being equal, is expected to be reached or communicated tomorrow. This is one that we'll keep an eye on as well here on Ghana Tonight. Right after this quick break, we're zooming into issues related to election and violence, because this is something that's come up again. It never seems to go away, because the people who died during election 2020, their families are still waiting for justice. And the question is the justice going to come anytime soon? Before election 2024. The 7 people who died in election 2020. Stay with us. We'll be back shortly.
Sale up to 50% off. New year, new savings. Unbeatable prices at Dubai's leading furniture house, Danube Home. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to demonstrate to you the superior properties of Flamingo paint as compared to other paint brands on the market. We take equal quantities of Flamingo paint and this ordinary paint. We then dilute them with water. And now, let the test begin. The gentleman on the left is going to apply the ordinary paint, and the gentleman on my right will use the Flamingo superior paint. As you can clearly see, Flamingo has the obvious better hiding. Furthermore, Flamingo has painted a much larger area. You know, 1 bucket of Flamingo paint is equal to several buckets of any other paint brand on the market. Flamingo paint is made with superior formulation to give superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage. Flamingo paint, simply superior.
It's a movement for a better Ghana. The new force.
Embrace the new force.
Anniversary sale up to 50% off. New year, new savings. Unbeatable prices at Dubai's leading furniture house, Danube Home.
The time has come for dreams to reach new heights. Brace yourselves for the grand finale, a culmination of passion, perseverance, and unparalleled talent. Now, only 4 remain, and the stage is set for an epic showdown.
So what this does is it collects the energy from the sunlight, stores it in a battery, and then even if you are not on the national power grid,
my colleagues have nominated me as the leader of all 5 tags.
So you have leadership capacity.
I had to have medication, and my medication was by me, hot water by me, and I still had to type my script.
So you are resilient.
Yes.
This show is not just about exhibiting your intellect, but also you should have confidence because there are people watching.
Who will walk away with the educational scholarship abroad, the cash prize, internship at a reputable company, a trip abroad, among others? The answer awaits you in the grand finale, Thursday, January 11, 2024 at 8 p.m. only on TV3. The top in 10 grand finale, where dreams become reality. Be there for the moment that changes lives.
Brought to you by Pepsodent Charcoal and Lemon Infused Formula and Pepsodent Natural Herbal Formula.
Enterprise Computing Limited.
Adansi Travels.
Center for Higher International Education Facilitation.
Welcome back. This is Ghana Tonight. We're live on 23 Ghana on Facebook, DSTV channel 279, all across the world on 3news.com. Over the weekend, ahead of the Constitution Day today, reason why it's a holiday, President Akufo-Addo addressed the nation, said a number of things, including this particular one about John Mahama not congratulating him since 2020. Take a look at this specifically. He says, on a lighter note, 3 years on, I am still waiting for my main opponent, in this case John Mahama, in the 2020 elections, to congratulate me on my victory. Now, this statement from the president generated some conversation, obviously on social media and also from the NDC as a political party. But John Mahama also responded in a statement commemorating today, the Constitution Day. This was his response. Take a look at this. He put it out there as well that, first off, that on a sad note, or the use on a rather sad note, it is unconscionable that 3 years after these tragic events, our president, Nana Akufo-Addo, has not uttered even a word of sympathy to the bereaved families, specifically with respect to the people who died as a result of elections on 7 December, Election Day 2020. The perpetrators of these murders continue to walk as free men and still hold on to positions of authority and power. This government must appreciate that they have an obligation to guarantee peaceful elections this year, and the loss of even one Ghanaian life will not be countenanced. So this was in specific reference to the 7 people who died as a result of some violence in election 2020 in a number of areas. Let's do a quick recall. These are the names of the people and their ages, just so you don't forget. Zachariah Samira, 12 years old. He died as a result of election violence. Musa Husseini, 14. Boche Taki, 16 years old. Abdallah Ayarik, 18 years old. Tajuddin Mohammed, 41. Dompre Emmanuel, 36. And Abbas Ibrahim. A number of the reports that we monitored, they didn't put his age to it. But these are the areas where the election-related killing occurred in 2020. Tamale, specifically in the northern region, Techiman in the Bono East region, Odoko in the Greater Accra region, Ablekuma, and then Savelugu as well. Now, Dr. Ishmael Norman is a security analyst. He's joining us on Zoom. Dr. Ishmael Norman, thank you very much for joining us here on Ghana Tonight. Now, we had very, very little, I would say, update from the Ghana Police Service with respect to this particular incident of these people who were killed as a result of these elections in 2020. What could be accounting for this?
Alfred, I think the police probably has done its job, because given the situational report that the police gave, it appears that they have gathered all the information that they need to gather. They know who the perpetrators were, the weapons that are involved, the exhibits, spent fuel, spent shell, and all of that, the locations of the crime and all of that. I think in order to bring a case to trial, it is the prerogative of the Attorney General. And if the Attorney General that empowers the police prosecuting team to go forward with a case does not give them the go-ahead, then the police cannot do very much. And why would the Attorney General not give the go-ahead? That's
why it leads me to that question.
By a political power.
Indeed. Now, it leads me to that concern about, we earlier put the ages of these people who died during that election in 2020 on the screen earlier. Some as young as 12 years old, 14 years old, 16, who had nothing to do with the exercise of elections because they are not of voting age. They were there probably to also observe what's going on, and they are victims of the violence that led to their death. That's troubling, to say the least, is it not?
And the rule of law does not operate the way that it's supposed to operate in Ghana anymore. And all the lawyers that are involved in a situation like this are actually probably in a great deal of pain that they can't exercise the privileges and the rights and duties for which they went to law school. I believe that some political mechanism is controlling and holding down the Attorney General from moving forward. Because when you read the situational report that the police gave, there is absolutely nothing else left for the police to do other than to be given the go-ahead to prosecute the case. So it is very sad that in our country right now, the political powers appear to hold so much sway over just about everything. And the few bold people, courageous people that speak, like lawyer Martin Pebu, cannot be everywhere all the time, but majority of our lawyers are not helping. They're not talking. They know the truth. They're not saying anything. So we have a catch-22 situation where we can't really move forward until one man gives the go-ahead, then the Attorney General's office that has a constitutional prerogative to decide which case to try, which case not to try, basically has become a lame duck.
But while we're talking about this, Dr. Ishmael Norman, the families of these people who lost their lives are waiting excruciatingly for justice. And the pain that you're going through, that cannot be discounted, is it not?
Families, unfortunately, when crimes happen, the surviving victims often don't really matter because it becomes a matter for the state to handle. So it is very unfortunate, but I believe that they should find consolation in the fact that, to be more religious, it was probably the will of God that it happened that way. But you know what? It is not consoling at all to tell somebody who has lost a loved one that it is the will of God. What do you mean by that? Where was God when the bullet was coming? Why didn't God stop it? So it's very difficult to console people when they are actually looking for justice. And justice is one of the indicators or one of the avenues to console people when they know that justice will prevail, that their dead ones didn't die in vain. The way it looks right now under this current regime, all the 8 people that died might have died in vain.
Dr. Ishmael Norman, hopefully not. And as we continue to ask these questions and demand some updates on the investigations into the killings of these people so far, we'll see how the coming days will look like. But thank you. Dr. Ishmael Norman is a security analyst. But let me just leave you with this. Take a look at this. We visited the families of some of these people who died during election 2020, and they shared the ordeal with us. Take a look.
Have been all by ourselves. Nobody has been here to ask about her death since last year. She helped me do my trading business, and without her, I am lonely.
That's the mother of one of the deceased persons we're talking about. Well, as we continue to wait for justice for these people, these families, I want to say thank you so much for staying with us here on Ghana Tonight. Join us tomorrow, same time. On behalf of the rest of the team, my name is Alfred Ocansey. Have a good night.
Ghana Tonight is brought to you by
Flamingo Paint. Superior durability, superior hiding, superior coverage, simply superior.